Welcome to the Northern Business Podcast. Each week we talk to people active in business and the economy about the big issues driving growth in the north of England. We're sponsored by Vertu Motors, one of the UK's largest motor retailers. Check out its website at vertumotors.com. I'm Graham Robb, owner of Recognition PR. We help scores of businesses promote their products and services. Some are featured on this podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Both our guests are down the line today. We have Dr. Sophie Dale-Black. She's director at the British Business Bank, and there's some interesting things for her to tell us about sources of funds for business. And Tom Mercer, who's commercial director at Gainline. Now, Gainline is a boutique management consultancy business with lots of information about different sectors. And later, my colleague Joss will be speaking with Philip Cunliffe, business editor at Insider Media. Welcome to the programme, Sophie and Tom. Nice to see you both. Can I start with you, Tom? Tell us, first of all, a quick introduction, what Gainline is and the kind of businesses you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, we're a boutique management consultancy based in Manchester. We work with a really wide range of businesses of all shapes and sizes, all sort of different industries. Obviously, today we're sort of specifically talking about some of our experience in manufacturing and also retail.
Okay, now in manufacturing, where would you say the temperature check of manufacturing is from your own frontline experience?
Yeah, so just sort of purely speaking from our experience, I think it's a varied temperature across the country. We sort of obviously specifically tend to deal with manufacturing firms that are looking to sort of remove obstacles within their businesses, solve challenges or reach goals. But I think there's a sort of generally good feeling, and the support's obviously there in varied formats for them if they want to grow.
Now, I was talking to the chief economist of Make UK a couple of weeks ago on this podcast. He put for our viewers rather than listeners, they'll be able to see a map of the country divided into blue zones where everything's going great in manufacturing, and Yorkshire in the northeast, there were lots of thumbs up. The northwest was in the pink and red zone where it's not going so well. And then when you look at manufacturing, of course, we've got a lot of international competition. And if you look at things like Germany, you're seeing they're now entering a prolonged period of slowdown and recession. And if you look at our international competition, according to PwC in the newspapers today, this Wednesday, British bosses are planning the biggest hiring spree in the entire G7. So it might be a bit grumbly here in the domestic market, but when you look at it internationally, not so bad.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And obviously business is based in Manchester. I'm originally from Sheffield, living in Sheffield still, and think, we see in our city, a city predominantly sort of built on steel many, many years ago, got sort of friends and family that have sort of been involved in that manufacturing industry. And, they've seen a lot of international trade come in and compete with them at prices that are really, really hard for them to meet at. So it's a great thing that obviously some industries and some trades, manufacturing are looking to hire and are growing well, but obviously there's some that are not doing so good as a result of that, international competition.
And of course, the things we're manufacturing are changing, aren't they? And if you look at Sheffield, as you mentioned, or even northeast England, there are new technologies. Sheffield has this magnificent advanced manufacturing park. There's one near Nissan in the northeast, and you've got companies that are making products of today, like car batteries and drive shafts and things, motors for electric vehicles, as an example.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is one of the things that I guess we help manufacturing companies do is move with the times and look to I guess take the rough with the smooth, so to speak.
Now, when you're working with a company, you've got some manufacturing trends, and we'll pop them on our slide for viewers to see, but I'll quickly go through them and then we can go through in a bit more detail. So our listeners, your four key trends are the pressure of sustainability, supply chain issues, reliance on digital tech, and improving workplace culture. Shall we tick those off and just have a quick chat about each of those points? Sustainability, climate-friendly practices. What kind of pressures does that involve for manufacturing?
Yeah, of course. So we're seeing obviously the sort of very recent COP26 and a lot of sort of noise around trying to encourage manufacturers to move over to things like renewable energy providers and sort of buying offsets like carbon reducing projects. Things like funding solar energy, wind farms, etc. It's obviously not good. It's not only good for optics, but it's better for the planet as well.
And what about these issues are not always directly related to the products being manufactured. If you happen to have a factory that's making a product that's unrelated to climate tech, then you might still need to put solar panels on your roof, and that's a cost.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, we'll talk to the British Business Bank soon. Maybe they'll be able to help with costs. Supply chain issues. Now, we've seen with the outbreak of hostilities in the last few weeks in the Red Sea that there's some supply chain slowdown possibly coming through the system. Is that what you mean by supply chain, or are there other more obvious supply chain issues?
Yeah, I think we've all had some sort of experience over the last couple of years, definitely, in terms of, buying products that you'd normally be able to get quite easily. A lot of manufacturers are struggling with supply chain problems, whether that be, getting things in a timely manner. And obviously it's causing a lot of people to be disappointed, clients or end users, end customers. So we're seeing a lot of manufacturers look to try and, where possible, diversify those supplier lists, or try and get full visibility over their sort of supply chains as well.
And shorter supply chains as well, not everything coming halfway around the world.
Exactly, yeah.
Next, you've put increasing reliance on digital tech. Why is that a challenge? Isn't that an opportunity? Or what kind of challenges does it present?
Yeah, so it's a challenge and an opportunity. Obviously, a lot of our sort of great manufacturing houses within the country have done things in a certain way for a very long time, and obviously there's some change management that needs to be done alongside introducing robotics and AI and that sort of thing within their organisations. So yeah, it is absolutely an opportunity, but also there is a challenge there to make sure that the sort of transition is seamless.
Also, I suppose one digitisation thing that's happened, say in the food sector, which I am seeing in a lot of the manufacturers Recognition PR works with, is the ability to trace every component. So whether, if you had a piece of cheese that you didn't particularly like and took it back to a supermarket, they would be able to tell you what farm it came from, never mind anything else. The same thing would happen for every bolt and every widget in a manufactured product. That is the extension of the way digitisation is impacting every part of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously that sort of harks back to the supply chain conversation as well.
Okay. And then finally, and I think this must happen in so many businesses, you've identified as a pressure for manufacture, workplace culture. And by that, I suppose you mean recruitment and retention.
Yeah, recruitment and retention obviously causes sort of challenges financially, but also we've worked with some manufacturing clients that have potentially sort of neglect slightly the culture within their organisation, and that's seen effects on the output of the product that they produce, and therefore clients are getting sort of upset at what's being delivered. So one of the quite honestly the main conversations that we have as a consultancy is how do we create that culture of growth and that culture of involvement within the business? How do we get people communicating better with each other? Manufacturing companies that have multiple sites, how do we get them working better with each other? And also just in general, rewarding people that are doing, jobs that are sometimes very repetitive, rewarding them for their hard work and also trying to keep them challenged as well, so they don't sort of, I guess, become unmotivated. Now,
you work in retail as well, and you've got some key points on retail, but I'm going to leave that for the second part of our interview because I want to bring in Sophie from the British Business Bank, because some of these issues that we've just heard from Tom can be tackled by investment, and your organisation is at the heart of so much of providing funds for investment, the British Business Bank. I took a moment to surf the internet and actually go through your checklist of products and how a business, whether it be a small business like mine or a large one like some of Tom's clients, might find finance. Tell us the mission of the bank first before we get into the products and services.
Thank you. Great to be here. The British Business Bank is a government-owned bank. We're independently managed, and the key focus that we work on is supporting smaller businesses, so micro, small and medium-sized businesses, to really start up, also to scale up their activities. But in some cases, and the manufacturing sector is a great example of this, from Tom's points around staying ahead of their competition.
I actually looked at it, and you had an indicator of the kind of startup loans you can do, and you can facilitate. You don't do the loaning yourself, but you can facilitate startup loans for just several £1,000s, and the interest rate wasn't bad either. I just ran through the calculator you had on one of the loans. If you had a very small business, a micro business, borrowing £10,000 over 3 years, it would cost them £300 a year in interest. I thought it was pretty good. It all added up pretty good. It actually was a 6% rate, but it was £900 total in the repayment. It was highly competitive and highly focused. And not at all intimidating, less so than actually going through a commercial bank, I thought. So, kudos to you for that.
Thank you. What great feedback for the system. Thank you very much. Those startup loans are really excellent. We've done over £1 billion of those now, and they're making a huge difference to the businesses all across the country. The north of England has a real great focus on those. And you're right, they go up to 25,000, but actually we do see businesses taking a lot less than that. Some take £500 only, and then they access a brilliant mentoring scheme that goes alongside the loan, and 6% fixed rate, as you say. It
was a good rate and it was easy to access. But I think there was one other thing that was very interesting. It wasn't as intimidating in so much as it was just a loan. From what I could see, there was no need to get heavy and put your house on the line and so on and provide guarantees. And when so many small businesses start and they go to a commercial bank, that's the kind of conversation that happens sometimes.
Yeah, these loans are excellent for businesses that have not necessarily been successful through their own bank, and that's one of the things we do look for. But they're being taken out by entrepreneurs from all different types of diverse backgrounds as well. So there's about a 40% female take up of them at the moment, and 20% go to Black, Asian and minority ethnic entrepreneurs. So really an inclusive offer, and that mentoring side of things is really popular with the loan recipients. Excellent.
And the whole way in which businesses can go through your loan process, you've cleverly categorized the businesses. Startup, which you just talked about, scale up. And I don't know, I understood the definition of scale up being you're growing by 20% a year for 3 years and you employ more than 10 people. Is that still how you define it?
Yeah, we work with the Scale Up Institute quite a lot, and that's kind of the general definition that's used. I think scale up in the widest sense of growth is a useful definition. And the kinds of businesses that we work with, and we work through delivery partners, as you say, that Startup Loans has a number of business support partners. We've got about 200 delivery partners, and they go right from that loan area at 25,000, give or take, all the way through to multi-million-pound raises. And companies like Pragmatic, which is a semiconductor company, coming back to Tom's points on manufacturing. Yes, it's got a site in Cambridge, but also has a site in Durham. And their recent raise was £182 million, which is huge amounts of money. And we've been with them through a number of raises now, through our own funding, but also through Northern Gritstone, which we support through one of our subsidiaries as well.
And the final category of business that you're not ignoring are those businesses that are very good, they're stable, they're large or quite large, and you're calling them the stay ahead funding.
Absolutely. Yeah, those businesses, they're the ones that you really want to help to support, because they're employers and they've got growth opportunity, but they need to stay ahead of the market. And great opportunity that we saw over in Cheshire, Specialist Polar, they're called Polar Specialist Coatings, and they're a paint company, and what they're doing is really reducing the toxicity issues of paints, and that was a 6-figure loan deal that we did with them. So that was through our Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund, which closed closed the first fund of that just before Christmas, and that's delivered £1 billion of investment into the north of England through both the investment that we've put in, but also the co-investment, as we say, the other investors co-investing alongside that. And we've got a new fund coming very shortly, actually, which will see 660 million for the entire north of England, which is really exciting for the businesses in the area.
Now, I know I've described you as a British business bank, and of course that's right, but just so people who may be thinking of a conventional banking and bank manager relationship where you go and borrow money at a rate, that you are not just providing access to finance on debt, on loans, but also equity, and that is levering a proper large-scale investment. And I looked at, I think it was the Scale Up, the number of providers of equity that were on there was, it was legion. There were millions and millions of pounds worth of funds that you could access through the British Business Bank. How is the government involved? It isn't actually providing taxpayers money directly, is it?
So in this case, though, using the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund that's coming in the next couple of months as an example, that's UK government money, 660 million. We're in the process of deciding the delivery partners, the fund managers, the equity providers, but also the lenders that will come onto that programme. And it's those organisations that the businesses will interact with and create the deals with. I think the way that we work with businesses directly at the British Business Bank is we work through partners to create opportunities for raising the investment readiness, as we call it. So making sure those businesses are ready for the money, but also acting against the biggest issue that businesses face across the country, but it's very prominent in the north of England in particular, is that awareness issue of the finance options available. So your word was legions of equity investor options. Some of that can be quite confusing because there are just so many to look at. And if you're not sure about debt compared to equity, you don't know how much to ask for. All of this is around awareness raising, and we're delighted to work with so many partners across the north of England who really deliver this support out to businesses and make the process much simpler for them.
Now, you've mentioned the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund, which is very important. And I tell you what, I want you to come on again when you launch that next tranche, because we should do a bit more on that. I think that would be really good. But there's also the currently running Enable Fund, or the Enable Programme. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about that, but it's also targeted at different sectors. You've got a special tranche of it for house builders to get house building off the rack.
Yeah, absolutely. So Enable, there's a couple of forms of Enable. Enable does have a guarantee system. We had these before the pandemic where government guarantees were in place to make sure that lending was viable through the different providers. There's also a funding option, and there's a number of providers in the north of England accessing that. But the point you make, Enable Build, that's a great partnership with Homes England, making sure that smaller house builders have that opportunity to build their own business and really get those houses built for residents in the different areas of the UK.
The government has introduced this relatively new, it's 18 months or so old, position where you can have full, you can have full tax deduction, full deduction on capital spending. Now, is that driving an appetite for more funding? Because if you can deduct it against tax, the idea would be if you have an item of equipment, like, let's get the investment going. That was what the idea was. So presumably the money is part of that. It's the lubricant of the deal, isn't it? So has that worked? Is that increasing inquiries for finance?
I think there's a few things to bring in there. Certainly things like R&D tax credits, the combination. My time at ICAW recently, I saw my former colleague James Callaghan on the show recently, and bringing all those different components together, they create a package that's quite viable for businesses to think about those investment opportunities. And a loan can also be around asset leasing. It can be around equipment and capital to make sure the business, in the manufacturing sense, as an example, they've got the equipment to do that. So I think it's a combination together, as you say. Lubricating the market is a great thing to do, and to give those businesses the opportunity to drive forward with their different options for growth. I think
the thing is that the government can give the tax cuts, or not entirely cuts, but that change the way things are taxed. You can help with government support, provide the finance. In the end, we still need the appetite to invest. And maybe this is one for Tom. If I bring Tom back in, Tom, in the manufacturers or the businesses in general that you're seeing, what is the appetite for investment? Is there still a fear of the future that's preventing investment demand?
I definitely wouldn't say fear. I think there's just sort of from our experiences, maybe apprehension. I think it was probably more apprehension maybe sort of a year or two ago. I think it's definitely on the down. But no, I definitely think there's appetite to grow. Again, obviously, this is just speaking from our experiences. We're speaking to manufacturing companies that are looking to grow and looking to change or looking to improve. So perhaps, unfortunately, we don't get to speak to the ones that really potentially desperately need it. But yeah, I would definitely say that there's appetite to become something either more profitable or something even bigger and greater.
I'm just going to finish with you, Tom, on the points you had on retail trends. We're going to discuss retail in more depth on the programme in a few weeks. But you had 5 key trends, and they are customer data automation, inventory automation, team feedback, flexible payment options, and automated pricing for e-commerce. That's quite a lot to take in because it's quite radical, isn't it? So let's just pick on the general automation piece there. Customer data and inventory, it is all about right place, right time, right person.
Yeah, I think, look, the retail sector in particular has come under a lot of change over the last few years. I think it's still going through changes. There's a lot of really, really innovative tech startups and established businesses that are looking to either already have developed or have developed really interesting, intelligent systems for use in this industry. When we talk about automating customer data, we're probably talking about it more from a sort of marketing perspective. So being able to, use, for example, the path that a user takes on a site. If they're logged in, you've got their contact details. You're able to understand maybe they put a number of things in their basket. They've gone to the checkout. They've not actually checked out. Why is that? Can we send them? I'm sure we've all had it here. We've had texts or emails saying, "Oh, why didn't you check out?" And while they may seem slightly irritating because there might be a genuine reason as to why you haven't, they are intelligent and either consciously or unconsciously you probably have come back and actually completed that checkout. Well, look, so it's all about intelligent email marketing as a result of things that they've done or things that they've bought, actually providing them things that they want to see or hear about, and also trying to close that checkout if possible.
If there are retailers watching or people involved in retail and want support, then I'm sure they can contact Gainline and you will Absolutely. Give them a hand. And Sophie, it's been great hearing about the British Business Bank. I think there's a lot of great things happening there that defy the knee-jerk reaction of people who are conversation in the pub about the availability of finance. Maybe if people took the opportunity to look at your website the way I did today, they'd see that the gateway is open and you're pointing in the right direction. So well done is what I would say, based on coming to this interview with very little knowledge and then seeing what you have. And maybe we'll talk again in due course when you have that fund up and running.
That would be brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you. Now, over to something a little different. Joss Haverkin, my colleague, spoke to Philip Cunliffe, business editor at Insider Media.
Thank you, Graham. This week, I'm joined by Philip Cunliffe from Insider Media. He's business editor there. Thank you very much for joining us today, Phil.
Absolute pleasure, Joss. Nice to be with you.
Nice to speak to you as ever. So I am sure that many of our listeners and viewers will know Insider. But for any who've maybe been living under a rock, do you want to tell us a little bit about the outlet?
Yeah, of course. We'd be happy to do so. Insider Media, we're the we're one of the most successful UK business-to-business publishers and media companies. We have 6 regional magazines that go out on a monthly basis. In addition to that, we have events that we run over the whole of the UK. We also have daily newsletters, business newsletters that's freely sent to our subscribers. But everything we do, whatever we're doing, whether it's events or our news services or our magazines, it's about getting high quality content to businesses in order for them to understand what's happening in various markets, in various sectors, and to allow them.
I want to ask you about next, if you
Yeah,
don't.
of course.
You speak to a lot of businesses, not only at your events, but during the day-to-day course of running a media operation like yours. What's the kind of mood music from businesses going into 2024?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally it's pretty optimistic, to be honest, Joss, albeit tempered by some, there are some headwinds along the way, of course. Businesses thrive on certainty, don't they? There are still some concerns about the cost of living, some price increases on energy, etc. That said, business leaders are telling us very clearly that they're pushing forward with investments. They're looking at acquisitions, at other things as well to really push forward on their growth plans for 2024. So it's generally optimistic, but there's something of a wait and see pattern emerging for later on in the year, I think.
Yeah, I think it's been a few years of wait and see, hasn't it? Let's be honest.
Indeed.
There was a big change for you, I believe, in 2023 with new owners of the publication at Insider. 2024, what kind of plans have you got in place? What are you looking forward to?
Yes, we do have new owners, but it's actually very, very much business as usual for Insider. There's no tangible difference at all for Insider. So we're looking forward to things. Like I said, we've launched a new hard copy magazine, the Northeast Dealmakers magazine, and that's focused very much on the corporate finance side of things, but looking at from if you like, from a business owner's lens. So that's a major thing that we're continuing with, and of course we're running roundtable events and breakfast events throughout the year as well. So we've got a very, very packed and complete program of things coming up. So again, we want to engage with as many businesses as we can to give them an insight to what's going on in the region. Of course, we get information from those businesses as well, which informs what we do as a business as well.
Okay, now you've mentioned some of the events that you've got going on. You've got a very busy calendar. What would you say is some of the highlights looking ahead into 2024? What are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, well, as always, I always look forward to our big black tie major events. There are awards. So we have our Northeast Dealmakers awards for the corporate finance community. We have the Northeast Property Awards for the burgeoning property sector across the region. We have our Made in the Northeast Awards, which are focused, of course, on the manufacturing sector in the region. And a couple of years ago, we launched our annual Northeast Young Professionals Awards, which are focused on the rising stars of the patch. Again, it's something we really look forward to every year.
What about over in the Northwest, Philip? You talked a lot about the Northeast. Is all these things replicated over in the Northwest as well?
They are. I mean, the North, well, we have, if we're talking about the North, Joss, we have our regional hubs in Yorkshire and the Northeast. Our head office is in Manchester for the Northwest. The Northwest is our heartland. It's where the business started. And the team here do a huge amount of activity, and we have a very good reputation of delivering real quality here. So yeah, we again, a lot of those events are replicated, but there are other things besides going on in the Northwest. And in fact, across the whole North, there's a real sort of coordinated campaign to make sure that the North is truly represented on the business stage. And there's a lot of talk about levelling up and all that. We've been trying to get that agenda and championing the northern business world for many years now, and long may it continue. And we're looking forward to delivering things for our subscribers across the north and elsewhere in the UK as well throughout 2024.
Well, there we had it. Philip Cunliffe was doing levelling up before it was cool at Insider. Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time today. We're going to go back to Graham, but if somebody wants to sign up for one of your events, how could they go about doing it?
Yeah, the website, very easy, insidermedia.com, and you should be able to find your way to whichever event or you're interested in, or the newsletter you want to go to. But if anyone wants to get hold of me, specifically in the Northeast, my email address is philip.cunliffe@newsco.com. Thank you, John.
And we'll be tagging you in those in the LinkedIn posts and everything when we put it out, so people will be able to contact you that way. Thank you very much, Philip.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh, and also thanks to Philip Cunliffe. Nice to see him still going strong as the business editor for Insider Media. It's a great business set of titles there, and he does a great job. Now, if you want to join us as a guest on Northern Business Podcast, feel free to get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks to my podcast producer, Harry Sinclair, and technical operator, Robin Campbell. Join us next time on the Northern Business Podcast. Don't miss an episode, though. Like, rate, subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.